Welcome back to our roundtable discussion. We're going through all the events leading up to the strongest man on earth this year. And today we've got a fun one to talk about. I'm joined by Jerry Pritchett, Lawrence Chalet, Terry Hollins. We've got the Manhood Stone event, which will end day one of competition. 4 different stones for these guys to choose from this year. So we're going to start with the lightest stone is 450 pounds, 204 kilos. We'll have an option of a 500 or 227 kilo, 550, 250 kilos, or the big boy at 600 pounds, 272 kilos. So this is a weight trumps reps. So the strategy is you do 1 rep with the heavier stone, you beat any number of reps on the lighter stone, and you're walking out there at the end of day one with the potential to crush this event, you know, and really separate yourself out. And, you know, there's a lot of strategy for sure that comes into play here, but I think the guys probably, it's hard to argue about the fact that they're probably chasing Tom Stolman on this one. You know, it's been a while since we have seen this type of event in strongman. So the last time was actually 2013 at the Arnold, and the stone weight for reps there, the heavier stone, I should say, was 540 pounds or 244 kilos. So, you know, that one, obviously you guys know I love that event. Very excited about that event. So that year was reps with that one. And I did do 3. I was probably capable of a couple more, but you know, it's one of those things. I always wanted to see a 600-pound stone in competition. I was very vocal about that. Always asked for it, never got to see it. And so this is, to be fair, probably one of the biggest reasons it's in the contest this year. And, you know, with me not competing, that's why I wanted to put it in. And it's shocking how many of these guys are pumped about this event. I mean, it's like so many were like, I've wanted this, or a lot of guys have lifted over 500 in training. Now we get to prove it in a contest. And, you know, this is going to be fire. I think the guys, you'll see in some of them make some new stones now to train with. So it's going to be wild, but I want to get your guys' thoughts, please.
Can you just explain to us sort of, is it that they go out and they have to pick a stone and then go for that, and then they can choose a lighter one if they fail that, or is it everyone goes out and attempts a stone?
No, you're exactly right. Exactly right. So they'll have a time limit to work within, right?
Yeah.
If they choose, for example, let's just say they walked out to the heaviest stone and they can't get it, doesn't come off the ground, or they lap it and can't load it, 100% within that time, they can then go backwards.
So it's like the log last year.
Correct. Yep. So
that is an interesting element as well, because obviously we spoke in the other video how Tom made a mistake last year. That could be a big factor. If people try this 270, 600-pound stone, fail it, try it again, suddenly you've used up a lot of energy, and the jumps down aren't that light. Yeah. So it's going to be one of those things where I think, I mean, you guys will, I think most of you will agree with me. It's better to go on a stone later in a competition where more people have touched it. There's more tacky on the stone. There's going to be an advantage to the athletes going out towards the end, like there is in most strongman events. I always found on Atlas stones, if I got to go towards the end, I was much better at them. You know, it usually comes down to what position you're in the comp. Obviously, this isn't the last event. It's just the last event, the first day. But having more people touch a stone, put more tacky on it, tends to make it a little bit better when it comes to your go. So that's going to be a big advantage, having done well in the previous event. Then it's how well prepared you are at stones and knowing your own body. Because I don't know how you guys find it, but I would use Atlas stones and some would feel completely different than others. You know, and I'm, you know, these are Brian stones, so I'm expecting them to be perfect, really well made. You know, I wouldn't expect anything less.
Yeah, they'll all be custom made, so they're all a 21-inch stone. So a lot of the guys are asking about that. You can go with a 22, which is a bigger stone, which adds a different dynamic. But I really wanted to have them the same as what they were done at the Arnold. So that was a 21-inch mold. So the insert, I actually got a picture from Steve Slater today, who's making them. All the lead that's going to go into these things is wild. Like it's basically a lead ball with like a concrete shell on the outside. So I mean, it's the density, people don't understand it. It's like even rolling it around, you can, like, if it's rolling on concrete, for example, you could just hear the density of it. So this one, yeah, they'll all be custom. The surface should be perfect. You know, and then we'll have really cool you know, bars to load them over that are all being custom built for the guys. Should look
this is going to be a fun one to watch. We've got so many good stone lifters, as we've already said, and lifting a heavy stone is a little bit different to just doing a stone run, because there's a lot of guys that have the power. I mean, we've got Trey Mitchell in this competition. He's an amazing stone lifter. You know, Tom Stolman, we all know how incredible he is. But Thor used to be one of the best stone lifters on the planet. I'm interested to see how he's going to do on this one, and other athletes as well. I know Mitch Hooper's looking forward to this. I'm sure many of them are, and it's a real challenge. But you've got to make, yeah, absolutely. But if you come in and you mess up that first attempt on something real heavy, it's going to cost you.
Yep. No, there's big. This is a big, you know, kind of like a risk reward game that you got to play with it to a certain extent, and also depending on what's been done before you, right? Like if you're coming out, like the guys that are placing well in the keg toss, that's going to dictate the order here. So if you come out and crush the keg toss, you get to sit back and say, all right, well, here's what I've got to do. But you know, again, if there's a really good stone lifter that comes out, and I mean, it's awesome to hear this, but with the questionnaire, some of the guys are talking about reps on the 600. I mean, they're saying that's what they're going to do, or they're confident they can do that. Now, will it play out that way? Time will tell. But let's just say, like, if I was going into this and I saw somebody walk out there, and let's just say they put up 2 reps on the 600, right? There's also a certain, I'm going to call it ego or status of lifting the biggest stone, right? And being the king of that event, because this is strongman in a nutshell, right? It's like, who can pick up the biggest stone, who can load it. So there's that factor too of this, that, you know, again, do you play the strategy game? If you're a Hawthorne or Tom Stolman and you place well in the keg toss, you walk out and there's been 4 guys that have lifted that 600-pound stone and maybe 1 or 2 reps. Like, how much do you go? You know, like, I mean, your back's against the wall, and if you don't do it, you're now losing 5 points, 4 points, something like this. Like, you kind of have to do it. So
there's certain events as athletes that when we're good at certain events, tactics go out the window. We want to win. We're all competitive men. Tom Stoltman does not want to lose this event.
Yep.
But Hafthor won't want to lose this event. You know, it's an interesting one, and I think we've all been there.
I will say this, in his questionnaire, he said he's coming to win this event.
Yeah,
that's what he said. And I was like, that, how exciting is that, right? Like, we get this battle, you know, where I think a lot of people have wanted to see this. A lot of people said for years they wanted to see Tom and I go and Hawthorne in that mix. But now you get Hawthorne coming back, which is exciting. You get Tom Stoltman, who, in a lot of regards, yes, he's gone out on his own and done massive stones for sure, but never has he seen something this heavy in a contest that's counting for points in a contest.
And also that with guys that could potentially lift it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. He's almost been on his own for the last few years. And the fact that he's now getting guys that, I'm not saying they're going to beat him, but they're starting to get in the same sort of realms as what he's done. I mean, obviously, in the past, it probably was just yourself and Thor were lifting those sort of numbers big weights. I remember when you did the 251, I believe, at the show in the UK.
Yeah.
And that was out of this world. It was just like, wow, that's incredible. The fact that we're talking about more than one guy being able to maybe do a 600-pound stone in a competition and for reps is crazy.
It's unbelievable, it really is. When you think about what we were doing, you know, when all of us started World's Strongest Man, the last stone was 180 kilos. Mm-hmm. And now we're talking about a 272, 600-pound stone, and potentially maybe 5 guys can lift it. I'm not saying that they will, but we've got some seriously strong athletes in here. One thing I will throw in there that is a factor is we've got to get through the raw deadlift, the log into the axle, and the keg toss before this, which are all going to tax that lower back, which will have an impact, particularly on some more than others. How hard they've gone on each of those events could be a factor. But I still expect this stone to go up. How many do it? I'm not sure. But I think we've got some very big stone lifters coming to this contest.
I think kudos on the order selection of the events as well, Brian. The fact that you've gone keg toss into the stones gives the guys the best chance of doing it as well.
That's what I was hoping. You know, the keg toss, yes, it's a big explosive event, but it's kind of like a break event, if you want to call it a break event. It's like you can use some strategy, you're throwing kegs, but it gives you a little bit of a break from the like Lauren said, the heavy posterior chain coming into it. And you know, at the end of the day, I really believe it's just going to come down to strength, right? So, you know, even the stone run that we had last year, which was heavy, it was a very heavy set. Like the jumps in between were not that big, start out heavy. You don't really get the light first couple that a lot of series have. That still started to come down to speed. I mean, you're talking about seconds, a little bobble, a little slip. Now you're dropping points, right? With this one, the guys are going to have time to do it, right? And it's going to come down to, are you strong enough to do it? Not can you, you know, is it quick here? Yes, we're going to have a time split for sure, right? Like you have to have that for the separation, but strategy wise, like if you're stronger, you should be able to execute and get it done. And you know, I think we're obviously naturally talking about the 600, but what's the level, right? Like what's the level to score points in this event for the guys that maybe aren't knocking on the door of that 600? Do you think you're going to have to be at 500 or you're not scoring points? Or, I mean, what do you really think? Like, where
I think we're going to have everything from, I think we're going to have everything from the 600-pound being lifted to maybe one or two not lifting. I think we're going to be split between everything. You're just looking at the list of athletes. There's a couple of athletes that struggle on stones with bicep issues and stuff like that. Opening up with a 450 stone, is it? It's going to be challenging for some of them. Others will breeze through a 450, and we'll probably see, I think the majority of guys will be on the middle two stones. That's where I would probably see the majority. But I think we're going to see everything from no stones lift to maybe 1, 2, 3 guys that can lift the heaviest stone. Maybe, if we're lucky, even for reps. You know, if someone can lift that once, we're all going to go nuts. If someone does it twice, the whole roof is going to explode.
Yeah. And what about like that crucial point between the second and the third? One rep on that, like say a few guys hit the third rep for the third stone for a rep. That one extra rep could be absolutely massive in terms of points. I mean, we're literally talking about, because I think I agree with you, there's going to be a lot around that 2 and 3 stone mark. You know, we could be talking about one rep gaining you 8 points, literally that much. It could be that extreme.
Interesting. Well, I'm going to ask, like, what would you guys do? Because if this was me, stones weren't my strongest event. I was okay. I think you and me lifted your 230 stone together, Terry. I was actually probably better at heavy stones than I was at a stone run because I didn't have to rush. I could kind of just focus on lapping it, not having to one motion and do anything risky. But if it was me, I'd probably be choosing the second stone and trying to get a couple of reps on it. That would be my target as a, you know, just understanding my ability. The 270, 600 pounds, I know is beyond what I'm capable of. And sometimes you have to accept, as an athlete, you're just not good enough to lift something. You've got to, if you want to lift it, you need to train more. Sometimes athletes don't accept that. You know, I see, especially through coaching, guys are like, oh, by the time the comp comes, I'll be able to do it. No, you won't. You know, sometimes you just got to accept that your ability is in this level. So tactically, you've got to think, okay, that's where I'm going to go. And some of the athletes will do that, but you will get guys that let their ego come into it and they'll try and open heavier than maybe they can, thinking then, okay, if it goes wrong, I'll drop down, and then mess up completely and maybe not lift anything because they try that.
What I think is going to be interesting is who's going to be the first to take a go at the 600, right? Because if you're coming, you know, up and you still, you know, you still have Hot Floor and Tom, and some big Trey and some big stone lifters coming. So, and you need the points to stay in it, you know, and you think you're capable of it, you know, that's going to be the interesting. Who's the first to take a go at it? Because to me, it's always easier once somebody does it and you go, okay, game on, I have to do it now. Than to be the first one to go try it, you know, especially if you're not 100%, you're like, I think I'm good enough to do it, but I'm still not 100%, you know, because sometimes guys can raise your level after they've already done it and be like, okay, game on, let's go. So that's going to be the is who's going to be brave enough to take that one, the first go at that 600, you know, before we get the guys that we kind of expect to see do it, you know, that's going to be interesting.
it's 100% fascinating, right? Like strategy wise, like now getting to sit back and be like, all right, well, what, like Lawrence's questions is fascinating to me. Like, what would you do? Right. And you're exactly right. You have to be within your ability to do it. Right. So you know that you have to be confident in your head that you know you can go out and do it if you're going to go after, right? And your level, like accepting it. Like there's several guys we're not mentioning, like for example, an Evan Singleton, right? Evan is a guy that could do really well at some of these events, but I don't know if his stone lifting is on that level. And if he doesn't, for example, if he doesn't lift the 500, it could kill him. Like Terry said, I mean, you could drop 8 points, like if you don't get the 500. So in training, you see some of these guys, like Evan, for example, we're talking about Hofstra not necessarily posting a lot of pressing. You see Evan post a lot of pressing because he really likes that, for example, where I haven't seen him post any stone videos. I don't think, at least at this point, maybe, by the time this video comes out, maybe he will. But, it's interesting because he has access. He actually has access to big stones. I was just out there in Nashville. I had an appearance to do, and Adam Dirks is he trains with him, but he's got. I mean, I went and saw he has the old 520 stone that I went and trained with before the Arnold one year. So he's got access to a 520. He actually has all the way up to a 595, just under 600 stone. And I'm like, why would you not, as an athlete, be hitting that almost every week? Not the heavy ones, of course, but at least trying to build up to do that, because some of these guys would kill to have access to the heavier stones. And you're seeing, I think Hofstra went and made some stones. Some of the other guys are making these heavier stones to try to have access to. So somebody like that, this could be a make or break event for Evan knocking on the door of the podium. Like it really, really could, even though it's the first day. If he drops those 8 points or more, that could really hurt. So it's that strategy within the I'm going to call it like the body of the event. That's really, really fascinating to see who does what. And then, who goes out and maybe pushes themselves to a 550 and gets it when they were on the door of like, well, I'm confident with 500, but I really am going to push for 550,
But that's a big point.
Go on, Mike. Go on, Jerry. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's a huge point on, what they have for equipment. Not everybody has huge stones like that. So that's a huge advantage if you have access to those. And I've seen like guys like Max just posting, he's making a stone, which to me is almost kind of late to be just now making a stone that's going to be ready to try to train it enough before the event.
Sure.
So and not everybody has the luxury of having a good set of stones like that.
So here's a question I've got for you. What do you think you'd have to be capable of lifting fresh to be able to do this 600-pound stone after doing a max deadlift, a heavy pressing medley, and a throwing event? What do you need to be able to lift to be able to do that at that point of the show?
As far as the stone weight, what type of top end stone weight?
Yeah.
I think you probably would need to be knocking on the door of like a 300-kilo stone, like 660, 650, 660, maybe 640. Like, but you'd have to be at least at what that like 630 range, right? So what Tom did for that record breaker event, like 630 for at least for that one, I think you would need to be capable of. So, I know for me, I had a 558 made in training, which I did train for reps. And then I had that 629 made years ago before they pulled the event out of the Arnold. And that stone was heavy, right? Like it's a new level of heavy. But I like that was the biggest stone I ever lifted up was a 629. And it was so far. The interesting part is, like you said, it was so far above what we were even doing within the contest. But I just wanted to challenge myself. And I did make the statement at one point that I thought, with the way I was going, that I thought a 700 was possible at some point in my career. Obviously now I'm done. That never happened because the stone, like we haven't seen these guys push right to this level within the stones. Cause it's, hey, they're all capable now, or a lot of the guys are capable of finishing a run at that, kind of 205, 210, 450, 460 range. But how many guys can do it? And you're right, Terry. Like it's like, doing it one time and training fresh is different than doing within a contest on the last event. So your level is going to have to be high. It's going to have to be high. Like you're talking
I think
about
something
very high level.
something else that's important. I mean, you were an expert in this area, Brian. Is like tacky application on something like this. You can't get it wrong. You can't just chuck on any old tacky and expect to lift a stone like this. You have to get it absolutely spot on. And some athletes are a lot better at this than others. Some just kind of think, well, I'll just use whatever. But the temperature inside the arena is going to be important. You know, application is going to be important. Even though it's just one stone, you want it to be right for that one, because, you know, the weight is so heavy. Every little aspect has to be right. You can't rush it. You need to make sure your hands are in the perfect position. Even if you're fatigued from those other events, just getting these simple things right could make a huge difference.
It's you're hitting the nail on the head. I mean, that when we did the stone at the Arnold, people would be shocked at the lengths I went to try to have the tacky ready. So I would go buy a blowtorch typically. So I had a blowtorch from the store. I had normally at least 3 to 4 different blends of tacky, and I would heat it to an adequate level before, test it. And then with Ohio, it was the humidity would play a factor. So if it was super humid, that could change the blend of tacky that I would go with on the stone. But, you know, typically the surface also, and then the other X factor, which is not going to be a factor here, but sometimes they would leave the stones on the loading dock there and they would be cold. And sometimes the stones would start sweating almost like having a little bit of a, you know, perspiration because it was a cold stone. Then it got brought into the expo. So, you know, those things, there's so many little factors here. And if your grip is not good, if you can't get a good purchase on that stone and you're not locked in, it doesn't matter how strong you are, right? Like it really doesn't. So, you know, those things, Lawrence, are massive, massive. And I feel like I'm constantly shocked that like these guys will turn up and be like, hey, do you have some tacky? Like, and these are the top guys in the world. Like they should all be dialed in to the point that it's like, I know what I'm doing. I'm good, right? But you know, it's one of those things where some of that has to be learned, right? Like, and unfortunately, you know, and some of the guys hopefully have had these situations happen where they had the wrong tacky or something, you know, goes wrong, and you learn. It's a hard lesson to learn, but you learn it and you don't do it again. So, you know, maybe some of them will listen to this and say, hey, I should probably think about the tacky I'm going to use and what it's going to be like going in. But man, this is going to be like, I'm just so pumped because I'm excited for the guys. I'm excited for them to have the stage to do it, and to put that level of strength on display with stone lifting is going to be wild.
Well, I think the only time we've done this was when, like, to those sort of extreme weights was when they did the record breakers at the Arnold's, right?
They pulled it. Yeah,
it's never been done as part of the competition, is what I mean.
Oh, the heaviest stone, again, to my knowledge, the heaviest stone ever done in a contest, like as part of the contest, would have been World's Ultimate Strongman in 2018, and they put a 500-pound stone in the series, right?
Yeah.
So that was I was very excited about that. But Tom and I loaded it, and then Hofthor actually tried and failed it there. I don't know if his tacky was wrong or what, but I don't know that. Like I saw Hofthor loaded over a 500 in training, and I know that he's capable of it. It's just a lot of these guys have not had the stage to do over that type of weight in a contest, right? And to your point, Terry, lifting it outside the contest, I never liked to do that. I didn't want to do the record outside. So every time at the Arnold, for example, I would do it, and then I would literally say on the microphone, I want it in the contest next year at 600. So I wanted to do it when it mattered, like when it's just different. When everybody has the opportunity to do a lift in a contest, it's just different, right? So, you know, Tom has 100% proved his abilities, and I'm not saying anything against his record and the things that he did and all that, but at the same time, you've now got the stage. And actually, Tom is one of the guys, you know, shocker, is the most excited about this, right? Like he's like, I can't wait because I've been, you know, just itching for an opportunity like this, you know. So it's you know, there's guys that are talking big and they're starting to get a little bit chippy about who's going to do what. And this is going to be some bracket race.
I think there's a recent video of Tom doing a 550 stone in training.
It's
looked
awesome.
Pretty comfortable. So
yeah.
he is going to go in there as the favorite, but there's a couple of guys that may push him.
Yeah. I think it's
I
going
just
to be
think it's great. I think it's great to see as an event as part of a competition, rather than it just being an exhibition lift. I think it's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Well, gonna be exciting, guys. That's gonna be the end of day one. We're gonna end with a bang. If you're interested in checking out more details, if you want to be there in person, it's gonna be incredible. We'll leave a link below the video, and hopefully you enjoyed this look into the Manhood Stone events for the Strongest Man on Earth 2024.